Hello and welcome to Module 4. Just going to jump right into it here. This week we're going to examine the literary context of a passage. Probably what you're thinking about is the assignment. So we're going to look at our core passage, James 2, 8 through 11, and how it fits into the larger context of the Epistle of James. Now what I've shown for you here is an example of an outline from Ephesians. Now these are common. If you look at any commentary, any analysis of a book, you will find what is called an outline. So basically your assignment has two parts, which is an outline of the book or Epistle of James, and then the second part is an explanation about how our specific passage 2, 8 through 11 fits within the greater context of James. What I want to make sure that you know is what outlines normally look like. So normally you'll have a header and it'll explain it. This isn't through the entire epistle or letter of Ephesians here, but I just thought I'd grab a little bit of it. It has an outline with Roman numerals, letters, and numbers that you can create in Word. And what you should have is a number that follows a title. You will make up the title. Please don't use the title that you might find in the beginning of a study Bible. For instance, don't use the Life Application Study Bible or NIV Study Bible outline. I want you to create your own assignment. In fact, if you turn one of those in, that will be you won't get credit for it because that's not your original work. So go through and create your own outline. So what you want to see, what are some of the big ideas, and then how do the ideas which are within a certain section fit within it, and how would you describe it in a phrase, not in a sentence, not in a paragraph, just in a phrase. So for example, here in Ephesians, these 1, 3 through 14, all of these verses could be described one way is why God is blessed and should be praised. In one phrase captures all of that, and then within that there's three ideas which support it. And you can read those right here: the Father, the Son, the Spirit. It's a nice outline. It shows exactly what verses cover that, and then it moves on to the next section. So familiarize yourself with how outlines look, how the numbers should all be contained. You shouldn't skip any verses, and then how you can summarize a large passage or a bunch of verses or maybe one verse in a phrase, so that it's probably not going for more than one line. That might be a good rule of thumb. Then what you want to do is, after you've completed your complete outline of James, then go back and look at your particular passage. And for instance, let's say that we were looking at Ephesians 1, 15 through 19. Well, what you would want, the content of the prayer, how does this fit within what God was already talking about, or which Paul was already talking about? I'm actually okay with both. In the previous section, well, what does the content of prayer have to do with God being blessed and should be praised? How does that influence what Paul might be saying here? And similarly, right after that, how does the immensity of God's resources, being an important topic, or what Paul's about to move on to, how does that fit into this section? So basically, look at what comes before it and what comes after it, maybe even the larger section of the unity of the church. How does that influence our interpretation of a passage, or our particular passage, James 2, 8 through 11? That's the assignment, that's the idea, and I hope you have a great week.